is for
Yeah.
you.
Fly was flying, we on the team. Touchdown, touchdown. Time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a bird game nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling on Philly, the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man saw Jackson like Sean, hunting like Randall. Season here, Philly time to do them in. Your boy Philly Fresco. Thanks for tuning in.
What is going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, joined as always by my guy Brandon, and it is Philly the podcast, man. Y'all know what it is. So today is another one. We doing this, man. We're so close to the finish line. I see the light at the end of the tunnel with this mock draft. We are at number 20, and we are going over the Chicago Bears. So what did I do? I went and got someone that knows their team. I feel like I don't have to say this anymore, Brandon. We went and got somebody that is a pro of their team, man. We went and got the draft Dr. Phil. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, boys? How you doing tonight?
Man, living the dream, living the dream. Yes,
Living
sir.
the
So
dream.
before we get too deep into this, before we get too far into the football talk, let them know where you're from, what your show is, and everything, where they can find you.
Yeah, I am part founder of the Tape Never Lies Network, and really that's where we speak our truth through the tape, not this, as I call them, the blog boys and the PFFs of the world hate us because they ain't us, and really recognizing what the tape tells as far as what football and the draft and the Bears, obviously heavy focused on the Chicago Bears each and every week. I break down the tape to show every fan. And we also have a patron side, which, if you're really, really deep into the tape and analysis, you go to that level and you get into the tape of me breaking it down. I use hip hop like you did in the open. That's my thing. And we really take to the tape to tell the story of what transpired in the game, or like now in free agency, breaking down these signings and really checking them out. Like Andy Dalton obviously became a big, heavy topic here with the Chicago Bears. So I took to the tape to tell the true story instead of allowing the national narrative or any of these haters of players. I like to see what the tape tells me. And of course, that uncovers a whole different story. So you can find me at The Tape Never Lies on Twitter, at TTNL Network. I don't do Twitter, but my partner, he runs the Twitter side. You can find me right there on Instagram, Phil_Otoshin. Well, you'll have to see it when it puts up the spelling of my last name. But yeah, and then you find us on YouTube at The Tape Never Lies. I got a lot of Eagles fans that check in, including Brandon.
Yes, sir.
There. Yeah. And because of the football analysis and breakdowns, as well as the draft, Joe. So that's what I do. That's where we're at. It's blowing up. We're excited. Big things going on at our network. And I'm glad to join you guys because I got nothing but love for this guy, Brandon Jordan. Shaky B.
Yeah.
I just learned this new nickname. I don't.
Now, usually I take it, take the reins, so to speak. But I know you guys do know each other. So, Brandon, Shaky B, I'm gonna let you take the first question. Why don't you set it off?
Yeah. So obviously, the Bears didn't have the best of seasons. I hate to bring it up, but I feel like the Bears haven't been the same since the double doink. I hate to say it, but you are visiting the Eagles here, so I had to bring it up at this point. But talk to us about kind of like what happened this past season, and what is your opinion on the faults and everything that kind of went downhill for you guys?
Everybody knows me very well. I don't know if I could swear on this show, so I'll keep it PG. I don't mince words when it comes to responsibilities, and as you go into the off season and during the season, there's as you guys know, especially with Philadelphia and the passion you guys have. I've been there, so I know how your fans are. If Bears fans, much in the same, creed, if you will, and the fact that they love their football team. But the problems start for us at top, and our ownership and how they handle this football team and what they, think is important versus what is important. For me, guys, this is a season and a team that needed CPR with the head coach. He's not a good head coach. He is gimmicky and he's overwhelmed. Learning on the job with the charter franchise is not a way that I feel as though you lead your football team. And a lot of times, without getting too deep into it, which I can tend to do, is Matt Nagy likes to be the smartest guy on the football field instead of recognizing what's working or what will work. For example, Mitch Trubisky, you could have built an offense around Mitch Trubisky. Instead, it's I want to build my offense, and thus that relationship soured, just like any relationship. If your wife's telling you get groceries every day and you keep going to the fucking casino, you're going to get in trouble. And that's really the reality of that relationship was broken. You saw they've moved on from him, but really you look back at the season, offensive line issues, I'm breaking down the tape showing each and every week. This team is so overwhelmed in the reality of what they're teaching fundamentally is being showcased each and every week that they're overwhelmed. And then when they do get it together, obviously this is a coach that has admitted we need to find our identity. This is week, how many years with you, coach? You can't figure out that 32 David Montgomery's your identity. It's just too easy for me to see. And a lot of people in the NFL, they don't understand. We traded away Jordan Howard to you guys. I love Jordan Howard. That was the first sign. If you can't figure out how to use that guy, that battering ram down in zone schemes, then you got problems when you're talking offensive football with a guy that's from the Arena League that loves to pass. He gets so heavy. In the history of our franchise, 101 years, there's been one time we've ever just run 7 times in a game, and it was with Matt Nagy. That's the reality of this guy, and it's very frustrating to me because the GM as well, you can't miss. Let's talk about that real quick. I thought it was a layup. Asked Brandon when the Bears are trading up. I'm like, here we go. Deshaun Watson, baby. We're securing our guy. And sure enough, they've done that to me twice. First, it was Laramie Tunsil when they traded up. I thought they were going to secure him. They took Leonard Floyd. Then they trade up again, and I'm thinking Watson, and they took Mitch Trubisky. You can't miss 2 generational talents at quarterback. And Watson and Mahomes. I know there's a lot of fluff out there with Watson. We have to wait and see what that is. I mean, that's a whole nother show. But the reality is the talent on the football field is it jumps off the tape right away. They're in the same ACC playing against the same opponents, and you come away saying Mitch Trubisky's your quarterback over that. I mean, I was distraught. I at least said, at least they got a quarterback and identified their guy, and I wanted to believe in their process. I knew what my thinking was. Mitch was, honestly, I've said it before many a time, my 5th quarterback. I had Chad Kelly over him. Chad Kelly with all those off the field. I'm just looking at the tape. Obviously, we meet guys. There's a whole different scenario. I always tell people, when you're doing this and you're analyzing football, you have to be very upfront with people. When you analyze tape, that's where your point of reference is. I don't get to sit down with Mitch and Watson and see the man. That's billion-dollar businesses have that opportunity. The fact that they miss so much makes me shake my head. But, that's the whole long story of why these Bears are in this position. And obviously, Coach Nagy and Pace are backed into a corner. Now, whether or not they're in trouble is depending on what room and what clique you're involved with right now, because some people are telling me, and through my people are telling me they're safe even next year. my gut feeling, you don't win now. You got to get the heck out of town. I mean, too much time. So the GM ownership, big problem there. They should have cleaned house, got a new head coach here. Then he identifies the quarterback and the moves that they're going to make. But they stuck with Nagy after he traded for your boy Foles. That was his guy, quarterback competition. It all fumbled in his face. You saw what happened, 6-game losing streak. And real quick, as I said, think about this. This organization, you guys, you've won a Super Bowl recently. This organization, we're living off 1985. We've been to the Super Bowl, obviously, with Rex Grossman. We lost that. We've been, in the playoffs and the double doink, as you commented, and totally agree. That was disheartening, and those things affect your football team and confidence. They sold it as we were a kicker away, right? And they had the worst season in 2.0 of Matt Nagy. So the reality of truth is this: Nagy, Pace have their feet to the fire right now in regards to turning this around. And so far this offseason, you've seen what they've decided to do. Now, rumors out there with Russell Wilson, still a possible trade with Chicago is real. So we'll see what transpires. But that all comes here, like in the draft. So that's my long answer to this.
Short story long. Now, let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you this, because I feel like, honestly, everything you said is a whole vibe for Eagles fans. Like, we can relate. We know what you mean by the whole smartest man in the room complex. The GM being a little bit too unbearable, pun intended. That was bad. I'm sorry, guys. But it's perfectly fine. I don't know why it was the first thing that came into my head. But I want to ask you, because I think this is a question that a lot of Eagles fans ask ourselves, is why do they have such a long leash? Because you guys have made mistakes. Obviously, as you stated, we've made a lot of mistakes, and they all kind of come back to the same two people. So why do you think, Ryan Pace and, Nagy have such a long leash?
Listen, guys, seriously, I throw down rants on this subject. Look at it like this. Let me keep it 100 with you, which is the name of our show every Wednesday night. 8:30 East, 7:30 Central, keeping it 100. This is a team and an organization that sold a 6-game losing streak, being able to climb out of that as a positive without recognizing the 6 straight losses that fumbled it. I don't know if people remember, the Bears were undefeated, 4-0 or 5-0 at one point. So then you lose 6 in a row and we're able to get to the playoffs. Well, they added a playoff team. You were 8-8 and got into the playoffs. You've been 8-8. The answer here was one with which the press conference at the end of the season was so embarrassing and completely negligent on their part as they talked down to the fans and were selling this coach and this GM. Now look at it like this. No other team has finished so poorly like the Chicago Bears with a GM that has missed this many first-round picks in regards to Leonard Floyd, Kevin White. You go down and remember these guys, Leonard, what's his name? They traded for Mack. That was I agreed with that move. Obviously, you end up going to the NFC North because your defense, everyone forgets this coach came in here to turn around the offense. The defense had 39 turnovers that year. They were plus 26 in regards to turnovers. That defense guy, they scored touchdown. I think there was, 8 defensive touchdowns on a season. Those things matter and make the difference. So when I look at this, to answer, I know I give you a long answer, but Mike Brown is the only other GM who, oh, by the way, owns the team that has had this much time to turn around and make the right decisions. That's disheartening. And when you're condescending to the fan base and you come out, we have a culture that the league envies, when that's a bunch of crap, as you know, it is completely disheartening for Bears fans to see your ownership look at it like this. They're so dysfunctional, as Brandon will know, as a family. So when the owner is asked who's making the football decision, why aren't you hiring a president of football operations that oversees the GM and the coach? Instead, you're hiring these outside firms with Ernie Accorsi, who, oh, by the way, is a shoe salesman, doesn't know. He's a former writer. I know he's in the Hall of Fame. I already know the stories about Ernie Accorsi. He shouldn't even be in the Chuck E. Cheese GM room deciding who's going to be. The reality is he's helping decide Ryan Pace. So here they are. Mike McCaskey stepped down. George took over. We have this family dynamic in Chicago. So this is a family are making these decisions. They have a bean counter and an accountant as the CEO, and he's the president. So he's an accountant making decisions about football people when he has no concept about football, and he has a lifetime existence. He's been there, and I forget the numbers. It's like 26 years. Dante Jones, former inside linebacker of the Chicago Bears, was saying, well, he was there when I was there. And the reality is it's nonstop with these guys, and I mean ownership and the setup of it, that they're so negligent when it comes to the football side. I'm telling you guys, if you hired a football guy, I'll throw my hat in the ring. Just use me. If I'm the president of football, Ryan Pace, Nagy are gone. I'm getting ourselves a GM who understands the game of football and people within the league and understands how important teaching is to coaching. Matt Nagy is a play caller. He's never been a head coach. You have nothing to go on other than he's a nice guy and a good interview. That has shown up each and every week. So that's why the people pulling the strings have no football acumen, and the people that are pulling the strings are relying on the people they hire to tell them who the football. So it's so dysfunctional, and you can't make it up when you say it out loud because they're like, no way, that's what's going. That's exactly what's going on. And I'll tell you this, I'll give credit to where it's due. David Kaplan, and we had David Kaplan of ESPN Chicago on, and we had his colleague Silverman of Waddle and Sylvie show asked the owner, George. They had George McCaskey, and they pushed back. It was Silverman who pushed back, and I was so proud of him. And he said, wait, George, so you're telling me Ryan Pace is your football voice? Yes. So who is in charge of Ryan Pace, the football guy? Who's going to hire the football guy? So it's basically so dumb because he has no one holding him accountable except the fans. That's where this franchise is and has been set up. And you go back and back and back. I'll tell you one other thing real quick. They were going to hire Chris Ballard, as their GM. He's the Colts GM now. You like that? You like what the Colts are doing? They're building something, right? Well, Ballard grew up in the Chicago organization. True story. He's interviewing for the GM job with Ernie Accorsi, George, and Ted Phillips. Well, Ted Phillips leaves the room. He's not in there. So it's Ernie and George. Chris Ballard says, I'll take the job on two conditions. Two conditions. A, Ted Phillips has nothing to do with this organization except be the accountant. Two, Jay Cutler is gone. They stood up and said, okay, we can't do that. Thank you. So he knew where the football stunk, and he was trying to clean house, and thus he got kicked out for reality of getting rid of Ted Phillips. And at the time, Jay Cutler was a cancerous, you all know the memes, he doesn't give a crap and all that. So that's why. It's a long story, but I hopefully I cleared it up in 4 minutes time.
I will say this. I'll say this one thing. I feel like Eagles fans, the grass is always greener on the other side. I feel like a lot of people are starting to realize throughout this mock draft series that everybody's got an issue. You know what I'm saying? Like everything you're saying, I feel like the Eagles are going through in some type of way. So it's crazy. So the next thing I want to ask you is I want to ask you a little bit
text,
about
guys. I don't know. Is this true that Deshaun Watson just got released, or is this a fake? I'm sorry, but I'm getting a
That would be
text from
pretty
someone.
big. Yeah, hold on. That would be pretty big.
Is this real? I don't
Let me
know if
check
anybody
that.
could verify Adam Schefter. Jesus
Did
Christ.
he really say that? Hold
This is
up.
what I'm getting. I'm getting a text. Deshaun Watson released. I don't know if it's any truth to it, but
I
anyway.
don't see it yet.
Yeah, so that would
No, I don't see
no.
anything yet.
Okay,
Not
sorry
yet.
about that.
Now hey,
I got it.
that would be important to know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
If
everybody's now.
right now.
they're pranking me now. I don't.
Yeah, and I was about to say the world stops if that happens, but no. So I wanted to ask you. I want to move to the draft a
Go
little
ahead.
bit.
Yes.
What are some of the needs that you guys are trying to fill here? Like, I know everybody has their, picture of the perfect draft. Yeah.
Quarterback.
Yeah.
Quarterback. We've been struggling for a quarterback since 1940. Think about that. We've had no consistency at the position. And when you look at somebody like Jim McMahon, you look at the reality of what he was able to bring to the table, obviously back in the 80s, but his inability to stay healthy ended up hindering the Bears. A lot of people forget they were the number one offense as well as the number one defense in 85. And Jim was one of the most talented passers ever to come out of BYU. So he can't even be put in there because of the injury history. Then you go through a list, and I put a list up on Facebook of Jim Harbaugh, Steve Walsh, down the line, Moses Moreno, Henry Burris, Jeff Blake. You keep going and going, and you can never find any consistency there. So really, ultimately, that has been the biggest thing hamstringing the Chicago Bears. So you look at this draft, obviously, with the way the mock has gone, has totally changed my focus as a GM in this exercise or mock draft here. But you look at the Bears just from that angle. Quarterback, obviously, they signed Andy Dalton. Is he the answer? I don't know. I have a lot of answers for you that I'm excited about. I think a lot of haters are out there, and we can get into Andy too, but I don't want to go away from your question. Number 2, offensive tackle. If we had Russ Wilson or we trade for Deshaun Watson, offensive tackle is our number 1 position of need when I look at it. Now you got another hole at cornerback because Ryan Pace had to clear cap and released one of my favorite players on the football team, one of the most underrated corners in the league, and Kyle Fuller, who then, 2 hours is with his boy, former Bears DC Vic Fangio. So offensive quarterback, offensive tackle, wide receiver is going to be in there, and obviously corner. So those 3 positions, I can even make an obvious case for safety as well. You got Eddie Jackson. They re-signed Deion Bush. They might sign my boy. You guys tried to trade for him and sign him, was Houston Carson, who's just a tremendous football player, in my opinion, one of the more underrated. 4 phases. Love what he does in the dime. So hopefully he comes back to the Bears. But safety is another need for the Chicago Bears. But in order, quarterback, offensive tackle, corner, and wide receiver are neck and neck. So I'll say 3A and B for my boy Cars. He hates when I do that. So that's where I would be.
We're not going to really talk about the Bears much after today. What are your thoughts on Andy Dalton? I mean, like you said, it was a failed experiment with Mitchell Trubisky, a waste of a number 2 overall pick. And now you going through the line, you signed Foles, that didn't work out. And now you signed Andy Dalton. And I was told that he's going to be the starter, at least for now. That's what he was told. What are some quick thoughts you have on him?
Listen, I did a full breakdown of Andy Dalton on our network on the patron side. We offer a patron side for $7 a month. We go behind the wall and I break down every free agent signing that we had. Obviously, there were rumors and reports that we were involved with you guys with Carson Wentz. I broke down Andy Dalton. I did a 25-minute breakdown of Andy Dalton. I'll tell you this truthfully. I'm not that guy, guys, whoever signs puts the tape up and I break it down. If you want to see my work, go over to Tape Never Lies on YouTube and you'll understand in about 10 minutes. I'm a narrative crusher. I'm the guy who helps people have a debate. If you want to debate about Khalil Mack, they pull up my breakdown of Khalil to show all the haters of the world just how dominant he is on both pass and run downs. We're not looking at stats, guys. We're looking at tape, the real. And Brandon, I know you played up in Springfield College. You watch tape. You understand the game within the game. A lot of this day and age is Madden run and fantasy football run. That's the powering force and gambling. So they don't have time. They just want to check a stats score sheet. How many sacks did Khalil have? Oh, he only had one. He stinks. Why are we paying him all that money? That's the reality of truth for a lot of them. I'm the crusher of that. So I go to the tape. So that being said, when we had Mike Glennon, I went to the tape and it was very difficult to watch what you're signing because it was so disappointing. You saw some limited big time throws, but a very overwhelmed pre-snap guy who doesn't know how to read defenses very well. And, you know, he's been in and around journeyman in the league, what have you, clipboard holder. Now, when Andy Dalton, you look at the tape, and I have my partner, Berlissimo, he's over in Europe. He cut some tape from his Bengals year, which our offensive coordinator is Bill Lazor, the former offensive coordinator with the Bengals, with Andy Dalton. So there's a relationship right there. You got to hope Matt Nagy doesn't get his grubby little hands in this relationship because they had a lot of success together. They know what each other likes to do and what they expect. So that's a good positive. And then I'm watching the Dallas tape and I cut up all this tape. And I'm telling you guys, I came away looking at Andy Dalton as a very fundamental, sound football passer. He is above average. He's a quality starting quarterback. He reminds me of Josh McCown. When Josh McCown was given an opportunity, he was able to be more athletic than people think. He's delivering the ball on time, anticipation ball after anticipation ball, working with at this time when I'm cutting the tape, I just picked random games from the Cowboys. I didn't want to look at his stats and what game. I just wanted to see every snap. You're talking about fundamentals with footwork, mesh point. He's accurate, deep ball passer, all of the things I have not seen since Eric Kramer, I believe, with the Chicago Bears. So it really got me excited to tell Bears fans, and obviously I have a show tomorrow night. We're going to have former Bear Rashid Davis and Kenneth Davis from the Under Center podcast from Chicago's NBC Chicago on. And a lot of Bears fans are hating on Andy Dalton. And I'm like, tap the brakes. Let's look at the tape for the truth. And really came away, in all honesty, my expectations were low. Then I do a show with my father. He's a Hall of Fame football head coach here in Connecticut. He has a stadium named after him. X's with the O's every Saturday. Me and my father went live breaking down Andy Dalton tape live for our Patreon channel. And my father was like, this is the guy, because he's a New England fan. He's like, this is the guy I wanted in New England. Everything he's going to do is he's going to do it right. He's going to get the ball to where it needs to be. He's not going to be an elite quarterback, but he's at that cusp there and given the opportunity to. This is the other thing I want to say here, Brandon, about Andy Dalton. You're facing a storm, if you will, of Russell Wilson, and the Chicago fans are rabid, just like you guys. So to go into the situation fully knowing you're going to catch this heat, and he stood in there like a ginger would. Because I've coached every ginger I've ever coached is top 5 toughest on the whole team. Those kids, and this guy's showing me that he's going in there with a smile, and really the tape never lies. This guy is going to surprise a lot of people and I say this truthfully because Adam Schefter continues to keep that door open. He's the one guy, and Ian Rappaport, I'll put number 2, that I really trust when it comes to the league and their sources and what have you. he has kept this door open because Pete Carroll, I know, loves Andy Dalton. So the Bears secured one piece. If there's a deal in place with Seattle that says, hey, we want Trey Lance. We have no, I'm just throwing Trey's name out there. It could be Fields from Ohio State. We want this prospect. And I'll break this on your show. We want this guy. You get him now. We don't have a first. If you secure that kid and give us Andy Dalton, we will trade you Russell Wilson for those two and a first-round pick next year. And that could happen, as we've seen many a time on draft day, much different playing field when it comes to the draft. So I'm very content with Andy Dalton right now. I understand the plan. I think they'll try to move up. Obviously tonight I can't, but I'm certain that they'll try to move up to get a quarterback if the plan is Andy Dalton right now, rookie passer to go in. The only thing that gives me pause on that is that that'll give them more time, as I'm not a fan of Matt Nagy at all, but maybe let's see with Andy Dalton and what have you. Nick Foles, obviously you guys signed Joe Flacco. I was hearing Foles might go back to the Eagles in a trade, but I don't think that'll happen now that Flacco's in the building.
Knowing Howie, it might. Knowing Howie, he's got to have that quarterback factory at full strength. So, a question we like to ask before we get into the last question I like to ask before we get into the actual pick, is draft night. We all, like I said, we all have our dream scenarios of how we want it to go. But I want to ask you, what is something that if it happened, it would just totally piss you off, just ruin draft night for you? Like, what is one thing the Bears can do to just ruin the draft for you?
They've ruined it so many times for me. So this year, I mean, it's sitting at 20. I'm kind of interested to see how they're going to attack it. All right, I'll give you the perfect. If there's no Russell Wilson trade and they somehow trade up to get Zach Wilson, I will be devastated. I think that kid is not going to be the quarterback that he's being portrayed to be. I know I'm speaking in step for step with the guys at our network. We've all have our favorite here in the draft. And if the Bears traded up and secured that kid, I would be disappointed. I know a lot of people love Zach Wilson. I'm just not one of them. I see a guy that holds the ball too long and is trying to make too many things. He doesn't have the arm that a Mahomes has, and he's not the athlete that a lot of people are portraying him to be. And I just don't think he fits what it is that the Chicago Bears with Nagy are going to want to do. And you'll be looking at another Mitch Trubisky type of situation transpiring. So if that trade, because I believe, guys, if this mock was different, all the quarterbacks that I believe are first round worthy are gone in your mock already. These guys have already taken them. So if I had my druthers, I would have been trading up for Mac Jones. That's my guy. He's my number 2 quarterback in this whole draft.
Wow.
And he's somebody on the tape that I feel like just is going to just be a killer in the NFL when he gets there. Obviously, I can go on for an hour about Mac Jones. That's how much I really, truly believe. And I'll tell you this. My partner, Shane, the smartest man, Marsaw, we call him. I think we've known each other for 25 years. There's never been a time where me, him, and our other friend, Matthew Bears Nerd Karstensen, have all agreed. And privately in October, the end of October, we all texted, who's your quarterback in this draft? Every one of us was Mac Jones. That was the first time in our friendship's history. So we're all in unison here. And as you've seen, and this happens all the time, Mac Jones, 2nd round, 3rd round. I'm like, these people don't know tape. They're just putting that Alabama bias. When's the last time? You don't do that when you're analyzing football players, or else you miss people. It's like, all Cal Davis quarterbacks are going to be great because we had that's not how you do things. It's just like and it goes the opposite. All Penn State backs stink. And then you have a Saquon Barkley, a Larry Jones. You can't do that. That's why you got to look at everything and understand what you're looking at. There's a lot of frauds out there when it comes to analyzing football as well as the draft. So if my negative would be Zach Wilson, my positive would be trading up to get Mac Jones. So I gave you 2. I cheated on you.
Now, see, I like Zach. Excuse me. I don't like Zach Wilson. So you had me there. I was totally with you there. Mac Jones, I don't know. I personally said that I think the Patriots are probably the perfect spot for him. Like
he'll
just how he
killer
plays
there.
Yeah, I think he'll be perfect for that. But I think that's probably the highest that I could see him going as a quarterback. But I could be 100% wrong. I could be 100% wrong. So let's get into it. You said you would want to trade up. Obviously, that isn't the option tonight. But so at number 20, who do you have the Chicago Bears picking and why?
Well,
this man in his drum roll.
We have to go into our needs category here, and one of my needs is not on this list I gave you before. And you're going to be like, Phil, what the heck? You didn't give this guy. So I'm struggling between 2 guys here, and I'll put both of them on the table here. Okay. Just to be clear, obviously, one of the most high grade guys I have is Azeez Ojulari from Georgia, pass rusher. But when it comes to quarterback, then pass rusher in my ranking, that's how you always draft. So I'm going against that rule here. I just want to put his name out there. I'm so high on this kid's talent. It's unbelievable. He's just scratching the surface on what he can do from Georgia. But for me, obviously, I got to go back, and every GM worth their grain of salt will say, we got to go over best player available, best player. And the little footnote is at a position of need, because that's the reality. Not everybody has the luxury of, we're just going to pick the best player. But, in this case, I have to look at our needs, because obviously they're vast and they're really on the offensive line. So 2 names that I'm deciding here: Jalen Mayfield, offensive tackle, Michigan, and my guy, probably one of my favorite guys in this whole draft, is why I have to bring him up, is Creed Humphrey, the center. This freaking football player, Humphrey, I could tell you right now. Let me look at his hand size. I was trying to get that stat earlier, and because I didn't get his pro days or anything like that. But Humphrey, to me, is a zone blocking phenom, and the Chicago Bears are trying to run a lot of that zone. So right now, between him and Mayfield's upside, you look at the talent this kid has. Here's his hand size. Sorry, I was looking for it. 9 5/8 hands. My buddy just sent me. So his hand size was 9 5/8, so almost 10 inches, which is very, very good. At 6'4" and 5/8, 312 pounds. He's got a 79.5-inch wingspan. Wow. I'm sorry. I was just getting these numbers from my buddy.
He's falling in love all over again.
Yeah. He's checking off boxes as we speak. I was like, you got to give me some of his numbers, his measurement numbers. But this is one of my favorite football players in the draft, and the Chicago Bears have, had a rotation at center. And they have an undrafted kid. They brought another undrafted, both kids from Notre Dame. They had Alex Bars first come in. He's a guard, probably better at right tackle, and he just couldn't play center. Then you have another kid, and Sam Mustipher, undrafted. Harry Heaston brought both of these guys, he ended up getting the scapegoat fire by Nagy. You got Juan Castillo, your boy, now with the Chicago Bears, coaching the offensive line. So in this case, that center position becomes key, because I think James Daniels, who was injured, was clearly rising to be our best offensive lineman, and our offensive line was horrific. There's just rotation and rotation. Then finally they put something together that was okay. But the reality, I can't go against my rules here. I just wanted to talk about Creed because my heart would take him. I'm so high on him. But my left tackle, I write songs about how bad this guy is. I can't. I'm embarrassed to be in your presence because you guys have had a former tight end that turned into a left tackle for a generation. Then you get Lane Johnson, who I was told, oh, he can never play. He was my #1 ranked offensive tackle that year, and people were clowning me. And he's still there, right, with you guys.
Yes,
just a consummate professional, showed every trait that I wanted, and I projected him to be. He could play either left or right tackle, just tremendous. So here I am now, and this kid, Jalen Mayfield, Charles Leno on our offensive line is soft as puppy, you know what. And it's constant over and over, missing assignments, falling down. He does the walrus technique. So he would fall on the ground and not get his cut off or chop anybody, just fall there. And it's over and over. And I don't know why, but a lot of fans, I wouldn't say a lot. There's a group of cult of Leno fans that think that I'm giving you some shtick here when I'm not. The reality is the offensive line position, and there's NFC East quarterbacks go to die here. You got to protect it. You get Andy Dalton in here. You're going to trade up possibly or trade for a quarterback, whatever they're going to do. I honestly think they will. But with this young, talented offensive tackle, Mayfield, that's where I think I have to go to put competition. You replace Charles Leno. I think I can get a center later in the draft. Mayfield has huge upside. He's a junior, 6'5", 320. I'm a big fan of Big Ten football, and obviously I'm a big fan of Coach Jim Harbaugh. And watching this kid's tape, I just think that he's somebody that can be what you're looking for in an offensive tackle. He's got the right temperament, has a huge upside. I know my boy Barlissimo is going to be pissed that I don't take his guy, Liam Eichenberg from Notre Dame. But for me, Jalen Mayfield's ceiling is so high that this could be what compares to Lane, that kind of athlete, that kind of growth in this young football player. So the competition breeds success. For me, I got to go. And I know I gave the same draft scenario to my partner over there, and he went Mayfield with me here. So Chicago Bears at 20, we're going to take offensive tackle Jalen Mayfield.
Let's go.
I like that pick. And a little unknown fact, Jalen Mayfield's father was actually an old rapper, Curtis Mayfield. That's a total lie, but that would have been cool. I had you guys like, wait, really? No,
Sermon was Eric Sermon's kid.
Exactly. We're making connections everywhere. I like that though. Like you said, I think you said it perfectly when you said that there's a little asterisk under, BPA, because it's true. You have to take the best player that fits what you need at the end of the day. And I think that's definitely what you guys need right now. Number 20 might not be the spot to get a quarterback if you do have to stay there. Yeah. So like you said, you got to kind of go and get what you can. And I think I know at least Aaron is happy to see that you didn't take Creed, because he as soon as you started talking about Creed, he was like, no, we can get him in the second. But what do you think about that, Brandon?
He's rising up boards. I'll tell you right now, I have a couple friends in the league, and they know all about Creed. But that'll be a great for you guys. Imagine if you got Creed and they play the Rocky theme. Boom.
Yeah, that is true. I didn't even think of that.
The Philly.
That would be a good pick for the Bears to get the left tackle or offensive tackle. You got to build that offensive line, and that's been kind of like your weak point, like you said. Like, I do check out their show, The Tape Never Lies, and some of the things that's just made me laugh is when you guys talked about like the offensive line throughout the season, especially Leno. So to get someone to replace him, and especially a young talent where you're not gonna have to pay big money yet for it to replace, and you don't have to go get a 29, 30-year-old off of free agency that's gonna want top dollar. That's the best bet. Building that offensive line, especially when you guys have a dope running back that you guys don't use to his full advantage. Montgomery is a beast and he needs to be used more. And then if you got an older quarterback like Dalton, you need to protect him. Because if he is protected, if everything's going right, he is a solid quarterback. It's just last year with Dallas, their offensive line was just as trash as the Eagles, just running through people. And so he was getting sacked every 2 seconds. They could have had Lamar Jackson back there and he would have been able to escape. So I respect that pick. I think that's a smart pick, and it might not be the sexy pick that, you know, fans love, but you got to build that offensive line. That's key.
Since Ryan Pace has been here, guys, he said you got to take a quarterback every year. He's never taken but one. So that's the kind of condescension you get from this GM, and he's never ever taken an offensive tackle beyond the 5th round. So unless you want to say Cody White here, which he was moved immediately to guard. So you can't do that in my book. So this guy has never invested in the tackle position and how important that you re-signed Ifedi today. They signed a veteran Elijah Wilkerson, who I like from the Broncos. This is, you know, a talented kid, but the reality is you got to get younger. Like you said, Brandon, you got to die. I'm telling you, elite runner in David Montgomery on the tape doesn't lie. He's running through, like I said, it's rush hour in Manhattan. That's David Montgomery's path to the end zone to try to get to the subway train. That's how much chaos is going on, and he's still finding holes and gaps to go through. It's a necessity at this point. You can't let this continue to go down that way. And in this scenario, I would keep it 100. I would be trading up to try to secure a Mac Jones. I'm a really big believer in him. And if this came down, offensive line would be my number one go-to here. We can even talk Liam Eichenberg for my boy Berlissimo. That's how important that offensive tackle is. But keep in mind, my boy, Creed Humphrey, you'll see him going in the 1st round. He will not. I'll bet you that he'll go in the 1st round. That's how.
Hey, maybe you'll get your wish. He'll go to the Bears.
If he does, I know I'll come back on the show. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, you can gloat a little bit. I told you.
No gloats. I'll just be, wow. You know, I would be happy with the analysis of that player because I believe what the Bears are trying to do in zone offensive scheme that they try, you got to have an athlete at center and someone who has that tenacity. And when you pop on Creed Humphrey's tape, like I said, it's not my bias. He's one of my favorite players in the entire draft because of the way he works in the interior. There's some things he does in college that NFL centers aren't able to do. That's how talented. And you guys have had, come on, you've had the luxury of a center that can get out on a toss, get up the field, get on the strong safety. He's pulling up on the free safety, knocking. You've had one of the best athletic centers in the zone-based scheme the league has ever seen. And that's why you guys have been able to get to where you are. I mean, he's one of the big reasons. I remember that in the playoff run, your guy Kelsey getting out on a screen made the key critical block for you guys to get a big 1st down, continue a drive, you end up winning. That's how these little inside the game things happen that most people, fans, don't notice. So you guys have had some luxury there at the left tackle center position. Your offensive line, man. I was so jealous that you got, what's his name, from the Texans, that guard. He's still there.
Brandon Brooks.
Oh my God. Brandon Brooks. He comes up into the hole. He's knocking linebackers back. And listen, it all starts up front. That's not cliche. It's truth. When you get an offensive line that gets off the football, gets after it, pass pro, all of that gets second. It's so easy for them because they've dominated and they've created a culture. And you guys have had that. We had that in the 80s. We haven't had that. So it's fun. History will repeat itself. Football will be back. You'll be seeing the I formation and offset and all of that. It'll end up coming back. That's just how the game is. It just is.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, it's just a big circle. Everybody,
exactly.
everybody, goes exactly.
Exactly.
And shout out to, first of all, before we get out of here, I just want to say shout out to all the channel members that are in here. Usually I go through a whole spiel, but y'all know who y'all are. I see y'all. But Phil, before we do get you out of here, one more time, please do tell these people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can check me out at The Tape Never Lies. Just put that in a YouTube search. You'll see us pop right up. You'll see the logo right here. Sorry, we're on the back. And you can check out my film analysis. Again, on the YouTube channel, we do live shows, keeping it 100 every Wednesday night. Like I said, tomorrow, former Bear Rasheed Davis and Under the Center podcast, Kenneth Davis from NBC Sports Chicago. They'll both be on. And that's an adult show, so maybe some of your Eagle fans come in and check us out. There's a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, a lot of production that goes along in it. As me and Joe were talking beforehand, I'm a big hip-hop fiend, if you will, former rapper back in the 90s. It's my story. There it is, Claudio. Oh, Claudio's in here. He's from Canada, one of our TTNL.
Oh, hey.
He's one of our TTNL patron members. We have a patron side you can go to. That's $7 a month, and that's real coaches clinic, football analysis, mock drafts. We have a fantasy football show that we're building. We got a cast and crew of those people with former Bear players that are going to be in this fantasy league. And Adam Rank from the NFL Network. So it's going to be, we have a lot of stuff going on over there. If you love football and love the film side of it, check out the Tape Never Lies Network on our YouTube channel. And you could follow me at Phil_Toshin. I love this dude, Brandon and Joe. I could just tell I'm a scout by nature, former coach, 13 years coaching. So I can tell a person's energy. And you got a great energy about you, Joe. I'm not blowing smoke.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I'll come back on here anytime and talk ball with you guys and break it down. It's a lot of fun. And Brandon, obviously, you know how I feel about you. You're one of the best. So I'm happy to come on here. I got my boys upstairs. I'm going to go feed them, put them to bed, and then I got to produce 2 intros tomorrow for these guys. So
there you go.
I'm always doing something at the TTNL family. We call our fans 100 Crew from the Keeping It 100.
People don't realize how much work it takes behind the scenes. Like they see us talking and having a good time, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I want to go do YouTube," and then you actually do YouTube and do a podcast, and you learn how to make a website. I learned how to make a website. Anyways, shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody that kicked it with us, man. Be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe. As always, I'm going to have all his information in the description. So please do go support, because this is more than just, bringing on somebody. He is a very good friend of Brandon's as well, and now of mine. So, he's more than just another podcaster. It's family. So other than that, I wanted to say this because this is you, Brandon, right here. I wanted to make sure that you remember your fundamentals. Don't forget your. But other than that, man, y'all know what it is. It is Fly Eagles Fly, and we are out here. Peace.